He was just serving coffee when a woman in a wheelchair handed him a newspaper clipping. In that instant, the cafe fell silent and his entire past came rushing back. What was printed on that fragile piece of paper connected 3 lives in a way no one expected. This is not a story about fame or miracles. It is about one small act of kindness that traveled through years of pain and returned at the perfect moment. Stay with this story because the truth hidden in that newspaper will change how you see ordinary moments forever. Before we dive into this incredible story, do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our powerful, life-changing content. I stood frozen as she spoke my name. The sound felt heavier than the tray in my hands. The cafe lights hummed above us like nervous witnesses. Steam rose from the cup and brushed my face. Her voice carried years of waiting and restraint. I asked her how she knew me and my throat felt dry. She tapped the newspaper clipping gently. The paper crackled like a secret waking up. I looked again at the photograph. The young man smiled with a familiar hope. My knees softened, yet I remained standing. The scent of roasted coffee turned suddenly bitter. She told me the man in the picture was her son. Her words landed slowly, one after another. I felt the room tilt, though nothing moved. I remembered a night long ago filled with rain and fear. I remembered lifting a stranger from twisted metal. My hands had shaken the same way back then. She watched my face with patience and care. Her eyes held no accusation, only searching light. I swallowed and felt warmth behind my eyes. She said a waiter once saved her son. She said that act gave him years of life. My heart pressed against my ribs like it wanted out. The cafe seemed smaller, closer, more human. A spoon clinked nearby, sharp and sudden. She placed her hand over the clipping. Her touch was gentle, steady, forgiving. I felt my own past breathing beside me. He thanked me for work I never measured. She thanked me for choosing kindness on a hard night. The weight of her gratitude bent my shoulders. I leaned closer so she could hear my breath. I felt the truth rising, raw and alive. The photograph trembled as I held it. Her chair creaked softly as she shifted forward. She leaned in as if sharing a final secret. She said her son now served others with the same heart. My chest filled with warmth and ached together. The cafe noise returned in distant waves. I realized this meeting was not by chance. My hands rested on the table, steady now. I felt the moment stretch like a held note. Her gaze stayed with mine, unbroken. I sensed something more waiting to be said that I nodded slowly and listened with my whole body. The air felt thicker as if memory had weight. She told me her journey here took many years. She spoke of hospitals, silence, and learning patience. Each word carried effort and quiet strength. I felt the table edge under my fingers, grounding me. She said pain teaches attention when nothing else does. Her voice never trembled, yet my chest tightened. Sunlight slipped through the window and touched her hands. I noticed the fine lines on her skin, earned and honest. She asked me if I remembered the night clearly. I closed my eyes and smelled rain and metal again. I told her I remembered the fear and the choice. I told her I remembered deciding to stay. Her lips parted as if she had waited for that answer. The cafe clock ticked louder than before. People moved around us, unaware of the bridge forming. She said kindness survives when it is shared. She said work done with love never disappears. My breath slowed as her words settled. I felt taller without standing straighter. She placed the newspaper into my hands fully. The paper felt lighter than moments ago. I noticed a handwritten note on the back. The ink was faded but careful. She told me her son wrote that note for me. My pulse echoed in my ears. I turned the paper slowly. The letters blurred for a second. I wiped my eyes and focused. Her chair shifted closer to the table. I sensed her hope resting between us. The cafe door opened and closed behind someone else. I stayed where I was, present and open. I felt that the next words would matter deeply. I read the note in silence. Each line felt like a hand on my shoulder. The words thanked a stranger for staying when leaving felt easier. My chest warmed with a quiet fire. I looked up and met her steady gaze. She smiled with a softness shaped by endurance. I told her that night shaped my path. I told her service became my way of honoring life. The hum of the refrigerator filled the pause between us. She nodded as if every answer had arrived. Her eyes moved around the cafe with recognition. She said places like this carry unseen stories. I felt pride rise without noise. She asked about my days, my work, my heart. I spoke honestly without hurry or shield. The smell of cinnamon drifted from the kitchen. Her hands rested calmly on her lap. She said listening is also a form of work. I felt seen in a way that surprised me. The chair beside us scraped softly as someone stood. The world continued, yet our moment held. She reached into her bag with care. The movement drew my full attention. My breath slowed, waiting. She pulled out a small folded cloth. The fabric looked worn and loved. She placed it on the table between us. I recognized the stitching before understanding why. My fingers hovered above it. Memory stirred like a gentle tide. The cafe light caught in her eyes again. She said the cloth was kept all these years. My heart beat louder in my chest. I leaned closer, sensing a deeper truth ahead. I touched the cloth with careful fingers. The texture carried warmth, familiar and grounding. I realized it once wrapped my own hand. The night returned with quiet clarity. She told me her son kept it as a reminder. She said reminders help people stay human. My throat tightened, yet my breath stayed steady. I thanked her for bringing it back to me. Her smile held relief and completion. Outside, a bus sighed at the curb. The sound felt distant and gentle. He asked me what I believed kindness meant now. I searched my chest for the answer. I said kindness means staying present. I said kindness means sharing weight without counting. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they shone. He said the world moves forward on such moments. The cafe felt brighter without changing. I noticed my hands no longer shook. She adjusted her scarf with a small motion. I sensed she prepared to tell me more. The air held a quiet anticipation. Her gaze softened yet remained intent. She said there was something unfinished. My pulse responded before my mind. I leaned in, ready to receive. The table between us felt like a promise. The moment stretched, full and alive. She drew a slow breath and held it. Her shoulders lifted with effort and resolve. She said unfinished things carry weight across years. I listened as if listening were my only task. Her voice softened yet gained strength. She said her son searched for me. The words struck my chest like a quiet wave. I felt heat rise to my face. The cafe walls seemed closer now. She explained how names fade and faces blur. She explained how hope learns patience. My hands rested flat on the table. I felt the grain of the wood clearly. She said he found this cafe by chance. She said chance often wears the mask of work. My breath deepened without effort. A cup clinked behind the counter. She watched my reaction with care. I sensed no demand in her presence. Only truth waiting to land. She said her son stood here once. He said he watched me serve others. My pulse quickened at the thought. The air felt warmer, closer to skin. She said he recognized my way of listening. She said recognition comes from shared pain. I felt a low ache mixed with gratitude. She leaned forward slightly. Her eyes held a quiet intensity. She said he wanted to speak to me. The moment settled deep in my chest. The cafe noise faded again. I felt the future press gently against the present that I asked her where he was now. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. She turned her head toward the window. Sunlight reflected off the glass and into my eyes. She said timing matters more than distance. I felt a quiet tension gather in my shoulders. Outside, footsteps passed, slow and uneven. She followed the sound with her gaze. Her lips curved into a knowing smile. I sensed my heartbeat in my fingertips. She said some meetings require readiness. I inhaled deeply and tasted warm air. The cafe door opened with a familiar chime. Cool air brushed my neck. I did not turn yet. I felt a presence before I saw it. The room seemed to hold its breath. She looked past me with calm certainty. Her eyes filled with gentle pride. I heard a pause in the footsteps. A chair shifted somewhere behind me. My back warmed as if someone stood close. The scent of rain returned without warning. I closed my eyes for 1 second. I understood before proof arrived. My hands pressed into the table. The world felt balanced on a thin line. She spoke softly, almost kindly. He said now is the moment. I began to turn, slowly, carefully. My chair brushed the floor as I shifted my weight. I turned enough to see a shadow fall across the tiles. The light from the window broke around a familiar outline. I felt my breath pause without fear. A man stood there, taller than the memory yet shaped by it. His eyes carried the same quiet strength as hers. The cafe seemed to recognize him before I did. He smiled, uncertain and hopeful at once. My chest tightened with recognition. I stood slowly, feeling every second. The air between us felt charged and tender. He said my name with respect and warmth. His voice held years of living. I nodded, unable to rush the moment. The scent of coffee wrapped around us both. People nearby sensed something important and gave space. He stepped closer, careful and open. I saw the scar near his temple. Memory aligned with the present. My hands relaxed at my sides. He thanked me for staying that night. He thanked me for believing he mattered. The words settled deep and true. I felt the work of my life reflected back. His mother watched us with peaceful pride. I realized this meeting was shared labor. The cafe felt like a shelter for truth. He extended his hand with calm intention. I felt the moment ask something of me. I reached forward, ready to answer. Our hands met with a steady warmth. The contact felt simple and profound. Time seemed to slow without stopping. I noticed the roughness of his palm. Work leaves its mark in honest ways. He held my hand briefly with respect. Then he released it, giving space. I felt grounded, present, awake. He spoke about learning patience through recovery. He spoke about learning humility through help. Each word arrived carefully chosen. The cafe sounds returned as a soft backdrop. Dishes clinked, voices murmured. Life continued. His mother rested back in her chair. Relief showed in her shoulders. She said this meeting lifted a long weight. I felt the truth of that statement. He looked around the cafe slowly. He said service carries dignity when done with heart. I nodded, feeling understood. He asked how I carried my own hard days. The question landed gently but deeply. I told him about long hours and quiet resolve. I told him about choosing care again and again. He listened with full attention. Listening changed the space between us. Sunlight shifted across the floor. Dust floated, visible and calm. He said he now helped others stand again. He said shared strength multiplies. I felt a quiet rise. His mother watched us exchange meaning. Her eyes shone without tears. I sensed more words waiting to surface. He reached into his jacket slowly. The movement drew my focus again. He pulled out a folded card, worn at the edges. The paper looked carried, not stored. He placed it on the table with care. My fingers hovered, sensing importance. He said this card guided him through training and doubt. The cafe lights reflected softly on the surface. I opened it and saw my own handwriting. The words surprised me with their clarity. I remembered writing them without knowing why. The message spoke of worth and persistence. My breath caught yet remained steady. The room felt smaller and more intimate. He said those words became his anchor. He said work feels lighter when meaning leads. His mother nodded, eyes calm and full. I felt humility settle in my chest. I felt gratitude stretch beyond this table. The smell of fresh bread returned. Someone laughed quietly near the counter. Life continued with gentle insistence. He asked if I ever questioned my impact. The question stayed with me. I looked at my hands again. They looked ordinary and capable. I said doubt visits often. I said care gives it no home. He smiled, recognizing the answer. The card rested open between us. The words breathed in the open air. I sensed this moment still unfolding. He folded the card slowly and returned it to the table. The gesture felt ceremonial and calm. He said some words grow stronger when shared again. I felt a quiet responsibility settle on me. His mother adjusted her position and exhaled deeply. The sound carried release and trust. She said healing moves in circles, not lines. I absorbed her words with care. Outside, the light softened toward afternoon. Shadows stretched across the cafe floor. I sensed time opening rather than closing. He asked if he could sit for a while. I nodded without hesitation. A chair slid closer with a gentle scrape. We formed a small island of attention. I brought fresh water without thinking. Service felt natural, unforced. He thanked me with his eyes. The glass caught the light like a promise. He spoke about long nights of practice and failure. He spoke about mentors who stayed. Each sentence carried effort and respect. I listened with my whole presence. The cafe seemed to breathe with us. His mother watched quietly, hands folded. I felt her relief deepen. He paused, searching for the next truth. The silence felt earned and kind. I sensed another turn approaching. The story between us still moved forward, but he looked down at his hands for a moment. The skin carried marks of effort and patience. He said there was one part he never shared. The words settled heavily in the air. I leaned in slightly, attentive and calm. The cafe felt quieter without becoming silent. He said recovery taught him how fragile strength can be. He said there were days when standing felt impossible. I felt a dull ache behind my ribs. His mother closed her eyes, listening. She trusted the moment to hold him. He said one evening changed everything again. The chair beneath me felt suddenly firm. He said he returned to the place of the accident. The memory sharpened the room. I smelled rain again, distant yet clear. He said he stood there for a long time. He said he spoke aloud to the dark street. My hands tightened together. He said he asked why he survived. The question hung between us. The cafe clock ticked once, slow and measured. He lifted his eyes to meet mine. He said the answer arrived later than expected. His voice lowered with care. He said the answer stood behind a counter. I felt heat rise to my face. The moment pressed close to my chest. His mother opened her eyes and watched me. Her gaze held gratitude and knowing. I sensed the weight of unfinished meaning. The room felt ready for what came next. He said purpose often hides in ordinary places. The words settled gently and firmly. I felt my shoulders relax without effort. The cafe lights seemed warmer than before. I realized my breath had changed rhythm. His mother smiled with quiet affirmation. She said dignity grows through shared moments. I felt that truth resonate in my bones. He leaned back slightly, giving space to the feeling. The chair creaked in a familiar way. I noticed how calm the room felt now. Outside, clouds shifted slowly. Light and shadow moved together. He said his work now involved guiding others. He said he helped people rise after loss. I sensed the circle forming clearly. Service returned to service. Effort returned as meaning. My hands rested openly on the table. I felt no urge to rush. His mother reached for her cup. She sipped carefully, savoring warmth. She said gratitude deepens when spoken face to face. I nodded, feeling the weight of that gift. He looked at me with steady respect. He asked if I still believed small actions matter. The question vibrated quietly in my chest. I looked around the cafe once more. Every table held a story. Every person carried unseen work. I drew a slow breath. I felt the answer forming, strong and alive. I said small actions shape large lives. The words felt true as they left me. He nodded slowly, absorbing them. The cafe door chimed again, soft and ordinary. Someone entered, carrying cold air inside. The warmth at our table remained. His mother set her cup down with care. She said faith often grows in silence. I felt a quiet strength move through me. He leaned forward again, intent and thoughtful. He said there was one more reason he came. The statement tightened my focus. The hum of the lights grew noticeable. I felt my heartbeat steady and strong. He glanced at his mother, then back at me. Trust moved between them without words. He said he faced a decision soon. The future hovered close, waiting. He said choices feel heavier after survival. I understood without explanation. My hands folded together naturally. I invited him to speak freely. The cafe seemed to listen with us. Outside, a train passed in the distance. The sound carried motion and possibility. He said he was offered a new role. He said it meant leaving this city. The thought settled slowly on the table. I felt both pride and ache rise together. His mother watched my reaction closely. Her eyes searched for reassurance. I sensed the moment asking for honesty. I prepared to answer with care that I told him growth sometimes asks for distance. The words came with calm certainty. He breathed out slowly as if relieved. The cafe window reflected our faces together. I saw 3 lives aligned by effort. His mother nodded with quiet agreement. She said letting go can be an act of love. I felt that truth settle gently. He asked how I stayed rooted while serving others. The question felt sincere and open. I said purpose keeps the feet steady. I said service teaches patience with time. He listened as if storing each word. A cup steamed softly near his hand. The aroma lifted and faded. Outside, a bird crossed the sky. Movement felt natural and unforced. He said leaving scared him more than pain once did. I recognized that fear immediately. I placed my hand flat on the table. The wood felt solid and real. I said fear often guards important doors. His eyes softened at the thought. His mother straightened slightly in her chair. She looked proud and tired in equal measure. She said courage grows when witnessed. I felt honored to witness this one. The cafe noise swelled and eased again. Life flowed around us with patience. He took a deep breath and held it. I sensed another truth ready to surface. The moment stayed open, waiting to move forward, that he released his breath and smiled with quiet resolve. The fear in his eyes softened into trust. He said he was ready to step forward. His mother reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined with practiced strength. I felt the moment settle like a blessing. The cafe returned fully to itself. Cups clinked, voices flowed, life continued. Yet something lasting remained at our table. He stood and thanked me once more. Not with weight but with clarity. His mother thanked me with her eyes. I thanked them both for returning meaning to my work. They turned toward the door together. The bell chimed gently as they left. Sunlight followed them outside. I stood alone for a moment. I felt no emptiness, only fullness and quiet purpose. I returned to my duties with steady hands. Each table felt closer. Each face felt more human. I understood then that kindness travels farther than we see. That small choices echo across years. That work done with love never disappears. Every person carries unseen battles. Every act of care can become a turning point. And when we choose to stay, to listen, to serve with heart, we change lives, including our own. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, leave a comment below, and let someone know you are never alone.